Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I have on a guest who has been studying and writing books on astrotheology for over 10 years. He is very knowledgeable on the zodiac and has studied the correlation between them and the Bible. He's recently been working on the Book of Enoch and its correlation to the zodiac and astrology, as well as the Bible. Everybody, welcome Micah Dank to the show.
Hey, I got a clapping intro.
There you go. I love doing it for everybody because I want everyone to know that they're special in this world and that at least, they get one applause.
Nothing but the best here.
I try for the best.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, how are you? Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
So I'm an author. I wasn't always an author. I had moved in 2013 to Boston. I'm from Long Island. And I moved in 2013 to Boston for a new job. And while I was there, the iPad had just come out. And I moved there with a girl I'm no longer with. And she would just be on the TV and I'd be on the iPad just diving down rabbit holes on YouTube. And I came upon astrotheology from a guy named Jordan Maxwell. And then it just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And then, I came across Santos Benoci's work through my friend Charles, and it just opened everything up. I realized this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to talk about. So I've been decoding it. I've been studying them for years and years and years, and I've been decoding it myself.
Okay.
And what I'm going to show you tonight is share with you stuff that I figured out.
Okay, and I've seen your presentation. You do a wonderful job, and I've heard about this before. Santos and Jordan Maxwell, and there's few other people that do this type of stuff. So it is very interesting. The one thing that the astrotheologists forget is the as above, so below. I don't want to say forget necessarily, but it's not considered in when I hear a lot of astrotheologists say it's only about the stars and it's only a story, a correlation from the stars, which it's as above, so below. It's playing out in the stars and in humanity and in beings that are higher dimensionally than us, on the Russian nesting doll scale. So it's happening on so many different scales that this stuff, but it is very important to know. And it is very important to understand all of this stuff because it opens your mind, especially to people who take the Bible as Christianity does. And, you have to open up your mind a little bit. So I very much enjoy the astrotheology because it started blowing my mind when I came across the sun being hung in the star, in the sky, as you'll go over later on Christmas Day, or that's the day it rises, and the day Passover. Those things blew my mind and really helped me to get a feel for the spiritual nature of things.
Got you. Where did you see me on, if I can ask?
I've seen you a bunch of places. All the podcasts you've been on, I listen to 75% of them.
Yeah, okay, so. Well, mine is edited a little differently. I've added about 8 or 10 slides to it today.
Okay, yeah. The last time I saw you was, I think, Conspiracy Castle.
Yes. Well, I don't get that far with Alex because he's got his own personality to deal with.
Yeah, Alex is the character. He's funny though.
I love him. He's great, but I can't really just teach with Alex because his personality is what sells the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Is that better?
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, there we go.
So we have astrotheology in the Bible. All right, so let's start with the Lascaux Caves. The Lascaux Caves are in France, and they're called the Lascaux Caves because they're in Lascaux, France. It makes sense. So what happened is people went into these caves recently in the last 2 generations, and they went to the back of the caves. They explored these caves, and when they went to the back of it, they saw this, among other things. Okay, and you see the bull on the top, the many faces of the lion on the right, and then the horse at the bottom. In astrology, the bull is Taurus, the lion is Leo, and the horse is Sagittarius. Okay, so what they did was they carbon dated the wall, and it came out to about 40,000 years plus or minus 5,000 years. What they then did was they brought in an astronomer and an astrologer with a computer, because we have the technology to do it now, so it was pretty recent. And what they did was they rewound the sky back to see what it looked like 40,000 years ago. And they had this map and they printed it out and they placed it over this, and all the constellations lined up to where they were supposed to line up. Also, on June 21st, which is the summer solstice, the sun came directly into the cave and bounced off this back wall. And it only happened on that one day, which is a special day. Stonehenge has a similar thing. If you've ever heard of Manhattan Henge, it's a similar thing too.
I've never heard of that.
Never? Well, it's the same
No,
thing in
that's-
Manhattan. It's between two large buildings. The sun just falls through it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. You're talking. It goes right down one of the roads.
Yeah. So there's questions in the Bible, how Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why his birthday's on December 25th. All this is astrology that'll be explained. Now, Genesis 1:14 says, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. And that's basically what the Bible does. Okay. The Bible is an encoded astrology book, which basically, I'll get into it a little bit further, but basically I got to go through the 12 signs with you so you know what keywords to look for. So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. Okay, so whenever you see the word son of man, man, baptism, because this is how you baptize someone, water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, things of that nature, they're talking about Aquarius. Then Pisces is a sign of the two fish in the water. So whenever they're talking about Leviathan, the fish god, or fish or water, they're talking about Pisces. So you got two water signs right there. Then Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator. See, the Passover, literal biblical, is God passing over Egypt, and anyone who didn't have the lamb's blood over their door, interesting, the lamb, the ram, anyone who didn't have the lamb's blood on their door, they would lose their firstborn son.
Yeah, and it's also when the sun passes over from the day goes from more day than night at the same time.
Right, it goes over the equator and it comes on its way back to its height in the summer solstice.
Right.
Now in Christianity, the passing over is changed and it becomes the resurrection of God's son, because Easter's in Aries, Passover's in Aries. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, because the Jews blow the ram's horn during the high holy days, that's because they're the people of Aries, whereas we're the people of Aquarius. You're talking about Aries. Then Taurus is the bull, and you had mentioned above, as above, so below. When you see the bull in the sky, you have to put the plow on the bull on earth. Now, we have machinery that does this now to plow the earth. But back in the day when this was written, it was the bull. That was the workhorse that you had to use. So you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, cow, cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Then Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear this twins or brothers, for example, they're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So what happens is the sun, starting on December 25th, rises a degree on its axis. The next day, an additional degree, an additional degree, an additional degree. So the days get longer, the nights get shorter, starting December 25th. Okay, when it hits June 21st, that's the summer solstice. That's its height. And then just like the crab walks sideways, the sun walks sideways. The sun stays at that height for 3 days. And then it drops a degree on June 25th. And then it continues to drop a degree every single day until it hits December 21st. The sun doesn't rise above the horizon at that point. So they used to say God's son was dead. And then it walks sideways for 3 days, just like it did in June. So they used to say God's son was dead for 3 days. And then its resurrection, it would come back to life and rise a degree on December 25th. It does this, scientifically proven, without fail. Okay, so that's where these metaphors come from. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, they're talking about Cancer. And the reason they're talking about the beetle is because in the ancient Egyptian zodiac, okay, the crab was not Cancer. It was the scarab. It was the dung beetle. So they used to say that, or I should say that St. Augustine used to call Jesus the good beetle. And we'll get into the names for Jesus shortly too. But Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, cub, you're talking about Leo. Also, because the sun rules Leo, the kingdom of heaven, the metaphor for the kingdom of heaven is actually when the sun is in Leo. So that's when that would be. Now, Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. And remember before when you said that you plant in Taurus? Well, you plant in Taurus and the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, like mustard seed, for example, they're talking about Virgo. Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. It's judged. It's basically sentenced, okay? Whereas when the sun goes over the equator in Aries, it's celebrated, okay? But here it's basically mourned. Because what's going to happen is it's judged, then it's going to be betrayed, and then it's going to be killed, and then it's going to come back to life. Okay? So the Jews always celebrate their new year around the fall equinox. And because Libra is the judgment, 8 days after the Jewish New Year is something called Yom Kippur, which is the day of judgment. It's the day that the Jews go to temple, they don't eat or drink all day, and they just pray to God to keep them in the book of life for the rest of the year. So whenever you hear words, because it's judging, it's justice. Whenever you hear law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, lawly things, they're talking about Libra. Libra is also wine season, okay? So you plant the grapes in Taurus, and then it rains, and then you grab the wine, you grab the grapes in Libra, and you press them into wine. If you've ever been to a vineyard, you know that everybody likes to go in the spring, but everything is bare in the spring. Okay, if you go to a vineyard in September, October, it's lush. You could literally pluck the grapes off because that's when it's harvest season. So whenever you hear wine, vineyard, wine press, you're talking about Libra. Then olive oil season is also then too. You press the olives to get the olive oil in Libra. So there's a lot going on in Libra. Scorpio is the scorpion. He is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like two lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. See, Jesus is the son, and Judas is Scorpio because he's the betrayer, okay? And he betrays him with a kiss, just like the scorpion betrays you with a kiss. You know, Judas could have stoned him. He could have pointed him out, anything. There's 100 things he could have done to identify him.
Dude, my daughter's mom bit me. She's a Scorpio, and she bit me one time. She was a bit psychotic, and she left an imprint. The camera's probably not going to be able to see it, but it's 2 teeth. It looks like, or not 2 teeth, 2 rows of teeth. You know, the top and the bottom, exactly like the lips. Yeah, and she's a Scorpio, so it literally happened to me.
Yeah, and it's why the mafia has the kiss of death. That's where that comes from. They kiss you away.
Yeah, and then my life went to shit after, from that moment onwards, and then it took probably like 7 years for me to get out of that,
Well, what I'm telling you right now, these metaphors, it's called the King's Journey, basically. We all go through it in separate ways. So the sun is judged in Libra and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Then finally in Sagittarius, this is where the rider with the bow and the arrow shoots the bow and the arrow into the sun, killing it. Okay, why? Because December 25th, the winter solstice, the day of death, is in Sagittarius. Okay, December 25th, it rises back up. That's Capricorn.
You said 25th twice. You meant 21st the first time, right?
The 21st, yeah. The 21st is Sagittarius. That's the day of death. Anytime you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, horseman, death, whenever there's a death, it's always in Sagittarius.
Right, and the sun's hung in the same place in the sky, so it literally looks at, so it moves 1 degree on December 22nd, but 1 degree, you can't tell the difference. It takes 2 days of having that to then move a second degree, and that's when you can see it.
On December 21st, it's the lowest. And then for 3 consecutive days after, it stays at that low point. And then
that's what I'm saying.
It rises the degree on December 25th, yeah.
Right. Well, it rises the degree, but then you can't see it rise. It doesn't look like it rises. It takes this 2 days at 1 degree, and that's how it operates. So on that, you can't see it move for 21st, 22nd, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. You don't see it move, and then it rises on the 25th. Right.
Right. Okay. So then Capricorn is the goat, because if you've ever seen a goat, the goats climb the mountains. That's what they do. The sun starting in Capricorn, Capricorn's at the bottom of the zodiac. Okay. So the sun starts climbing a degree a day alongside the zodiac wheel.
Like the ram going up the hill.
Yeah. Like the goat going up the hill. Okay. Now there's names for Jesus that are given in church. Okay. They're given in church. He has nicknames. And it's all astrology, basically. And when the sun is in Capricorn, the goat, he's called the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in Aquarius, he's known as the Son of Man. When the sun is in Pisces, he's known as the fisherman of men. And it's also why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. When the sun is in Aries, the ram, he's known as the Lamb of God or the Good Shepherd. When the sun is in Leo, he's known as the Lion of Judah. When the sun is in Cancer, St. Augustine called him the Good Beetle. The lady holding a stalk of wheat, Virgo, he's born of a virgin and he's called the bread of life, the lady with the wheat stalk. Okay? Libra, the scales of justice, he's known as the just one. Then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st, and it's also why he's worshipped on the Sunday. Whereas the Jewish people goes back to Saturnalia worship. If you go far back enough, they worship on the Saturn day or the Saturday. That's where that comes from. But the Christians, they worship on the Sunday. Okay? Now, if you look at this picture of Jesus on the left, it's a stereotypical picture that I found on the internet, just a cartoon version. There's always 4 things you're going to see. You're going to see the sun behind his head. You're going to see his 2 fingers up like this. You're going to see the heart outside the body. The heart is always outside the body, okay, in pictures of Jesus. And you're going to see the crown of thorns wrapped around it, okay?
I've never noticed the heart outside the body.
It's always.
I never looked for it.
A quick Google
yeah, I
search.
know. I never looked for it, is what I mean, you know.
Right. So the sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. The 2 fingers up are an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This is a Kemetic peace sign. This is the ancient Egyptian peace sign. This is the British Victory War sign that everyone says is a peace sign. It's not. The fingers are separate. Okay? This is the peace sign. So whenever you see statues of Baphomet like this, you'll always see them like this. Jesus like this. Satan like this. Just the devil, everything. You'll see all these demons just doing this. This tells you they come in peace. That's what they're saying. This is what it traces.
Well, the 2 up and the 2 down is something different, though. That means as above, so below. So just the 2 by itself is peace, as you're saying. But if you have the 2 of them pointing up, and there are pictures depicted of Jesus doing this as well, you know, as well as other characters throughout history.
So the white Jesus picture is actually a guy, Caesar Borgia, who is the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. So the face of Jesus is actually Caesar Borgia. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but basically Rodrigo Borgia bought himself to the papacy. Okay, he bought his way to the papacy. Now another thing that happened when he was Pope in the mid 1500s is the printing press came out. So they were able to disseminate pictures, you know, of what Jesus was supposed to look like.
This
on
is
a scale.
1200s to 1400s, right? Something in there.
1500s.
1500s, okay.
Yeah, it was in the 1500s. Okay, so before then there was no picture, and it was decided his picture would be the face of. Now the crown of thorns wrapped around the heart outside signifies the rays of the sun. It signifies the rays of the sun. Okay, Jesus dies with the crown of thorns on his head. Okay, That's the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the human toroidal field. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the human torus field. For people who don't know, it's an electromagnetic chemical gradient that, on a molecular level, radiates outside of your body. It's kind of like an apple shaped, you know, with your body being the core, and it radiates out like an apple. 6 feet. That's why the elites are trying to keep you 6 feet apart right now, because they're trying to separate you from everyone. You know, with this virus and everything, 6 feet apart. There's no reason for 6 feet apart. It's not going to hit you in 5 feet, but it'll hit you in 6 feet. There's no reason for that other than this.
Yeah, of course.
That's basically it. Now, here's a picture of Jesus on the left, and here's Caesar Borgia on the right. You see the resemblance?
Yeah, there was many kings actually around that time throughout the entire world that looked that way. Then you had a guy in Russia, you had a guy in France, you had a guy in England. They all had this general look, and I've actually heard the theory that it was Jesus with all these different names, that there was possibly a timeline deception, and the 2,000 years is actually 1,000 years, and that it was actually started in around the year 1000. Jesus was already here on Earth. You know, that's just something I've come across recently, that we're in the post millennial kingdom, and that's where Tartaria, all of them were raptured away, and now we're in a world where Satan is actually ruling over the world, and that's why there's so much confusion with everything. I know that doesn't have
I would
anything to
argue
do
that
with this,
I
but
would argue that I would argue that there's always been confusion. It's just getting worse now because now we can share our pain with the world via social media. You know, everything is
right,
instant, everything is across the board, you know, things are multiplied. You know, influencers are becoming popular for no other reason. You know, it's
right,
just, it's crazy.
right.
Um, Now, Proverbs 16:18, pride comes before the fall. This is taken to mean that your ego will be your downfall. However, in astrology, a group of lions is called a pride. Pride is the lion. Lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August. That comes before the fall. So this is how you start to decode things. You have to use the astrology that I've given you and the keywords. In the book of Micah 5:2, which is my namesake, he says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times." However, Bethlehem is a combination of two words in Hebrew, Bet, which means house, and Lechem, which means bread. Okay, so the house of bread. Well, the house, each zodiac sign is called a house. And the house of bread would be Virgo with the wheat stalk, the virgin. So what they're
Mhm.
really saying is the Savior will come from a virgin if you know your astrology, which is later fulfilled in the New Testament.
See, it's amazing
Okay,
how this
Deuteronomy 32.
story also plays out in the stars the way that it does. You know that it's just amazing that you and others have been able to make these types of connections. You know, it's quite amazing how you guys could put this together.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So the next
Yeah.
one is from Deuteronomy. It's Deuteronomy 32. Okay, there's 8 different, well, there's 10 different astrology mentions in it. I've already highlighted them, so you'll be able to see it. I'm going to read it across, and then I'll go over the last 2. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil, that's Libra, from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs, that's Aries, and goat, that's Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries, from Bashan, and the finest wheat, that's Virgo. They drank the best wine, that's Libra, made from the juice of red grapes, that's Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull, that's Taurus. Now, the 2 that I didn't explain that I have italicized here, he gave them honey from the cliffs. In sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. Okay, it's an asterism. It's a small knit group of stars. It's called the Beehive Cluster. So naturally, the Beehive Cluster, that's where the honey comes from. And he gave people milk from the flock. And butter and milk from the flock, that's milk based. That's the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius, that's your land of milk and honey. Okay, that's what they're trying to say when they say the land of milk and honey. They're saying it's basically half the zodiac, and that's basically what it is in astrology. Okay? The
Mm-hmm.
Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover, so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olive, he gave the parable of the true vine. Now, Passover takes place in Aries. That's on the, if you look at the zodiac wheel here, it's on the left. We're right after he walks to the Mount of Olives. Olives are in Libra. So you're going to go across the zodiac to Libra. It's a cross sign. Whenever you're decoding these phrases, it's always going to be a cross or the neighboring sign. It's always going to do that. It was done on purpose that way. Okay? They're always going to be opposing signs or neighboring signs. So we're in Aries. We go to Libra. While in Libra, they're waiting for the betrayal. The betrayal happens in Scorpio, which is the connecting sign to Libra. While in Libra, he gives the parable of the true vine, or vineyard, or wine press, which is Libra, because wine is Libra. Okay, so you go across, and then it teases to go to the next sign, and then it mentions Libra again. This is how you start to decode things. This is how you start to decode things, okay? And what you'll see in the book of Matthew, which I'm going to get to, is that every line in Matthew is an encoded line. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle.
I've actually had
The first
my third eye has actually seen that figure in a meditation one time. You know, one being with the 4 different faces all around it. It was quite amazing.
So the first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was like an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly crawling creature. It crawls on its belly. It's known as the lowest form of life on Earth. Its evolved form in astrology is the eagle. Okay? The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth. So that's how it evolves.
Wow.
It evolves one more time into the scorpion. I mean, I'm sorry, one more time into the phoenix.
Mamie's a
It
Scorpio.
evolves one more time. Yes?
Or a Scorpio, I'm sorry.
I am a Scorpio.
Yeah, she has it tatted on her as well. So I gave her a high five because she's becoming the eagle.
There you go. The eagle evolves one more time into its final form, which is the phoenix. What is the phoenix? It's a flaming ball, just like the sun, just like Jesus represents. It's a flaming ball that
Rising from the
basically
ashes.
dies into its ashes and rises from the ashes. It's the story of Jesus. Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio, those are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. They're fixed because you have fixed signs, cardinal signs, mutable signs. Anybody that knows anything about astrology, they're called fixed signs because they're fixed in their season. Okay, Leo is the dead of summer. Taurus is the dead of spring. Aquarius is the dead of winter. And Scorpio, that's the dead of fall. Okay? Lion, Leo, man, Aquarius. Those are opposing signs. Ox, Taurus, Eagle, Scorpio, those are opposing signs. If you look at the zodiac wheel here and you trace that, it makes an X through the wheel. The perfect alignment. They're just telling you where the stars are. That's what they're doing with these passages. Revelation 12, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth.
I've actually seen that being as well. That was in a mushroom trip. I was guiding a couple people, so I wasn't too far gone, but I was gone enough to where I was in the astral world, and I saw that being exactly as it's described. But except it had 7 heads, but each head was one color of the chakra system, and it started red was the highest, and then the purple colors were the lowest. It was reversed. Yeah. Yeah, it was upside down, but it was I saw
Purple's the top. Purple's the top. That's why you have ultra.
But
that's why you
meant,
have ultraviolet.
Right. That's why you said it was reversed.
Right. I know. This being, it's backwards. They have dominion over realms. You know how you've heard the term that the earth is like a records on top of records. Like the Milky. Yeah. So it was like that, and each one had dominion over another realm, and so it was upside down. So it was red was at the top, and indigo was at the bottom. It was completely reversed.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was super cool. It roared in my face too. It turned from it looked like a lion roaring at me, and then it closed its mouth, became the dragon, and I saw it have one short arm like a T-Rex has, but it had super sharp claws like a bear. It was incredible. It was so vivid.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Revelation 12 explanation. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor for it. Now, if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. Okay, so we have 12 signs in the zodiac. The sun is in each sign for 2 hours, giving us the 24-hour day clock every year. When the sun's in Virgo, that's between 4 and 6 p.m. The sun's still out. If the sun's still out, the moon's at her feet because the moon's not out yet. Okay? Now, another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco on the left is the dragon. Draco the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the sign, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. So that's what this is talking about. They're just talking about other constellations they knew at the time.
Freemasons, the 33 degrees. The fallen angels.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the spinal column that has 33 vertebrae.
Yeah, but it's also representative of the 33% of the fallen angels.
I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage to see if we can decode it as well. So let me get your girlfriend involved, okay? Do you know the story of Job?
Nope. You can explain it quickly for the listeners. Just give a rundown.
You want to do it?
Yeah, the story of Job. Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
So the story of Job is that he was a righteous man, he was a wise man, and he was very humble to God. But he had everything. He had animals, he had a family, he had a large house, he had crops. And Satan goes up to God one time and tells him, you know, he's gonna curse you if he didn't have everything. So God says, I don't believe that. You know, you do whatever you want to him, but don't take his life. So he's tested over and over again. His animals get sick and run away or die. You know, his family gets sick and dies. And at one point, I believe he's just like sitting on a rock and he's like crying out to God. He's crying out to God, asking him, you know, basically to help him or this and that. He never curses him, so he gains favor with God. But what he does is God actually responds to him. These are supposed to be the literal words of God. And I'm going to decode them with astrology in real time. I'm going to read you the sentence that God says, and then I'm going to tell you what it means astrologically. So Job 38:32, he says, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? Now the Mazzaroth literally means the zodiac, okay, in Hebrew. That's what the Mazzaroth means. In Mazzaroth over times becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. And you know how old a word Mazel Tov is.
Yeah.
So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? That's obvious. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. Then he says, who can tip over the water jars of heavens? That's Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher who's tipping it over. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? That's Merigo, which means deer and is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus, the bull. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Altaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? It laughs in fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. That's Sagittarius with the bow and arrow. Does the eagle soar your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook, which is Pisces? So God's entire response to Job is, do you understand what I created for you? Do you understand the heavens? When you understand astrology, you understand these stars, you understand what they're talking about.
I heard another podcast the other day actually talking about exactly this, and they were saying that they thought that they weren't sure what it meant, that it was and they were Christians. They were saying they thought he was just, God was saying, can you even imagine how difficult it is to do all this? But the way you present it, it makes literal sense that he would be saying these literal things that are occurring. So if you don't have this understanding of the stars, then you're going to be lost, and you're going to think that it's just, God's just mumbling on.
And he says it right at the beginning. He says, do you know your Mazzaroth? Now, the Mazzaroth is the 12 signs. But you have to understand is that we know there's 88 constellations in our neck of the woods now. That's what we know now. Okay, that includes the 12 zodiac. Back when the Bibles were written, they knew about 48 of them. Okay, so these are the ones that they knew at the time. Okay, there's a lot of new constellations that wouldn't be in the Bible because they didn't know about it.
Okay,
but basically, yeah, I mean, you see every line by line, everything is astrology. It's encoded. So answers to questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, if he's the living flesh, the Son of Man, the guy comes up to him, he touches his eyes, and then suddenly he can see. But if Jesus is the Son, S-U-N of God, he does the same thing. Right now it's dark outside. I don't have sight. You know, when the sun comes up in the morning, it literally touches my eyes. Suddenly I can see again.
Mm-hmm.
How he walked on water. Have you ever seen a sunset on a lake before?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. The sun literally walks across the water. How he turned water into wine. So the reason God is considered a man always, and earth is considered a woman always, is because of one thing. It's God's sacred fluid. It's the rain that comes down from heavens. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's the sacred fluid. So God's sacred fluid comes down on her, on earth, and from her belly, she gets impregnated, and then life grows from it. Trees, vegetation, food, what have you. That's why he's a man and she's a woman.
Right. The male
So how
always
you turn
fills
water
the
into
female, even with like electric sockets. It's always the masculine goes into the feminine part. That's how it always goes.
Now, how he turned water into wine. Okay, basically, April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. That's when you plant. That's when you put the bowl, you plant. Okay, so water turns into wine. So it starts raining and it rains and it rains, and you plant, and then it rains and it rains, and then in September you pull the grapes, you crush them into wine. That's how you turn the original water into wine. Okay, why he had 12 disciples? We went over that. I can give you another example too. If you talk about, you familiar with Simon Peter?
Me?
No.
No, I'm not either.
I'm not fully, I do
Yeah.
study the Bible, but
I've read it. I've read the Bible, the New Testament, when I was in prison. I read it through one time, but I didn't retain any of it.
It's a lifelong process. It
Yeah.
really is.
Simon Peter is Simon is one of the disciples.
Right.
And Jesus gives him the name Peter. That doesn't make sense because my name is Micah. Some people call me Mike. Not many, but some people call me Mike. That makes sense. But Simon to Peter doesn't make sense unless you know that Simon was a fisherman. Okay, so that's Pisces, the fish. Okay, and the ruling planet of Pisces is Jupiter or Jew Peter. This is just wordplay.
That's
okay,
interesting.
it's just wordplay.
I never heard that before.
So
That's interesting.
So why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Scorpio, why he was dead for 3 days, walk sideways. Why is his birthday on December 25th? I told you, it's all astrology. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Matthew to show how deep this runs. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've provided, on the left, visual aids so that you can follow. Okay? Book of Matthew. Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinox, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's sun. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. So if it starts at a major point, the closest one to Leo, before Leo, is what I've highlighted here in Cancer, June 21st. So that's where it starts. This is the firmament right here. Okay, this line dividing between the signs is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. It's the beginning of the kingdom. There's a saying in the Bible that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. The firmaments are the dividing lines between signs. Now, the next passage, Matthew 3:4, John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of it. See what I've done here? Cancer being the head is why he eats wild honey. In Cancer, there's a star cluster called the beehive cluster. Bees produce honey. So the head's in Cancer, the mouth's in Cancer, the beehive cluster's in Cancer. That's why he's eating the wild honey. Now, a little lower on the zodiac wheel, you go to Gemini. You get Cancer, and then you go to Gemini. Okay, they're neighboring signs. A little lower on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair, or Camelopardalis, which is a constellation in Gemini. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. Little lower, the next connecting sign is Taurus. You'll get the midsection, which is where he'd wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo, which is where we were, to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go to the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs' opposite locations. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. The signs, two most important signs in astrology and encoded in the Bible are its neighboring sign and its cross sign. Okay. So here we see right here from Cancer Leo firmament, it goes to the Capricorn Aquarius firmament. Being on the firmament, it can talk about Aquarius, okay, which is personified as John the Baptist with the water, the man with the water pitcher that baptizes Jesus. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreasing a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says he must increase, but I must decrease. It's also why St. John's Day, okay, St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament to continue our adventure. That day is July 24th. Well, you know that he's tempted by the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. So you just count 40 days from July 24th. That brings you to September 2nd. What's September 2nd? That's dead in Virgo. Okay, the lady with the wheat stalk, right? Matthew 4:3, the devil says, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22, I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place in the firmament of Virgo and Libra. We're talking about judgment. First, we were talking about the bread, that's Virgo. Now you're talking about judgment, that's Libra. Okay? Matthew 7:9-10. If your children ask for a loaf of bread, you give them a stone instead. So it went from Virgo to Libra and now back to Virgo. Is this making sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
I
just,
get girlfriend involved too. She's just sitting there.
No, it's fine.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I always sit on the
yeah.
side. I write notes. I've got about 2 pages
we're just
of
consuming
notes right
all
now.
of it.
Yeah, I'm totally consuming all of it.
Yeah, this is really good. This is
Are
really well done.
are you riding this wave with me?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
this
good.
is
So we're gonna go to
is
the
this
next
the
one.
whole book? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Matthew 7:15-16. Beware false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. Can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? These are the two things that Jesus asks. Now the sheep are Aries, that's Aries, and the grapes we mentioned are Libra. Okay, those are opposing signs. Matthew 13, later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra down the zodiac wheel in order till it goes to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces as he's right beside the lake. Get it? He's beside the lake, so he's kind of beside both water signs. As
Yeah.
it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalks and the grains. Isn't it ironic that Jesus' next parables, it being across from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast. Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So now we go back from Leo Virgo to Aquarius Pisces, so we can touch on Pisces, so it makes sense because it touches the fishing net parable. Then Gemini is the sign of the two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we've no Mary and his mother and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the firmament of Gemini Cancer. How do we know this? Now look at the firmament of Gemini Cancer on my wheel on the left, okay? What would its opposing sign be?
I don't know.
Capricorn.
Oh, yeah, Capricorn. And I guess
Sagittarius.
what's that? Yeah, I can't see what that one
Yeah,
is.
Capricorn and
Oh,
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius,
That's
right?
Sagittarius.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the
Okay.
know
Now
that
what is
astrology that well.
It's okay. No, it's fine. So what is Sagittarius Capricorn? What's their firmament? That's December 21st. What happens on December 21st?
Yeah, the sun dies in the sky.
Right. So it's the death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the next story is the death of John the Baptist. Comes right after it. Perfect timing. As I've mentioned previously, the death comes at the end of Sagittarius. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini Cancer are opposing signs. Let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible that I came up with, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, right? That sounds kind of prophetic, right? A little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Or the ruling planet. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it like I've done, you see it literally splits the zodiac or the land in half.
Yeah.
That's how they encoded things in this, in that sort of way. Now, Matthew 14, 17, 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs in the zodiac. The bread being the wheat stalk, Virgo, and the 2 fish being Pisces. That's why he fed them with 2 fish. They're openly talking about astrology. He fed the masses with 2 fish and loaves of bread. Well, that's Virgo. They're opposing signs, okay? This is the cross of God's son. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law and wine, remember? What stories do we get now from Jesus? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. As you can see, this is all, I've went over this with you. This is all Libra, okay? Tax, lawly things, law-related things, vineyard, olive oil. This is all Libra. Then the next step, so we were in Libra. The next passage is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where he betrays him with a kiss. And then so we go from Libra to Scorpio to Sagittarius, which is, again, what happens on December 21st?
Yeah, the sun dies.
Here's where Jesus is crucified on the cross.
Yeah, wow.
Okay? That's the book of Matthew. Okay, line by line, that's the book of Matthew.
Well, you did an amazing job with that. That is, that takes a ton of time and effort, and especially how precise you are with it, going around the entire thing like that. I mean, this is incredible.
Thank you. I have a couple more to show. This is kind of new stuff that I'm teasing, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Moses goes up to get the 10 Commandments, and when he comes down, he sees them worshiping a golden calf. The sun is the gold, and the calf is the bull or Taurus. They were worshiping the sun in Taurus, whereas they are the Jews or the people of Aries. So Moses breaks the commandments, becoming the first lawbreaker because he literally broke the law. Okay?
Yeah.
The ancient Egyptians used to worship the sun in Taurus. On the left, you see the hieroglyphs of the bull with the sun between its horns. I mean, they're blatantly telling you that. The Jews are the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn to the sky, which is on the left. You've seen them before. Now, the Christians are the people of Pisces, which is why they have the Jesus fish shown below. This is why Jesus is also able to feed the masses with 2 fish. Now, the highlighted part in the Venn diagram on the left over here is what's known as the Vesica Pisces. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat, John 21, and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Okay? This is the Jesus fish. This is what it looks like, right?
Right.
You know what its mathematical equation is?
No, I don't.
It's 247 over 153. And oh my God, look, in John
wow.
21, they mentioned the 153. The ancients
Yeah,
knew
wow.
this. They had this ancient knowledge. They embedded it, they encoded it, they hid it from the masses because people weren't either ready to hear about it or they didn't want, it's just crazy. Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the place Peniel. Called the name of the place Peniel. For I've seen God face to face and my life is preserved. On the left is the hieroglyph for the Eye of Horus. And on the right is a sagittal cut of the brain with the section where the pineal gland is. And if you look at the number 7 on this, that little eyebrow ridge right there, that's the corpus callosum. And then in the middle, that looks like a nipple, that's the pineal gland. That's where DMT comes from. That's where you trip. That's what helps you sleep. That's what helps you refresh yourself. It takes you to another dimension, whatever you want to call it. Right. Now, in many Buddhist traditions, 49 is the total mourning period, 49 days, with prayers conducted every 7 days across 7 weeks. These Buddhists believe that rebirth takes place within 49 days after death. And it just so happens that the pineal gland becomes visible on the 49th day of gestation.
Wow. I never heard that. That's amazing. Yeah, isn't that when the soul comes into the body? It is around day 49 as well. So I guess it's one and the
Day
same.
49.
Wow, I
Yeah.
never put that connection together. Wow, that's amazing.
The ancients aren't dumb. The ancients weren't dumb. They knew stuff that we're only trying to figure out. The problem is with people taking the Bible literally is it brings you further away from truth. That's the problem. It was never meant to be taken literally. In 325 AD, when Constantine united everybody under a literal Christianity because they had pagans, religions, and competing things like Mithraism or Dagonism, fish god related things. He united everything under Christianity, under literal Christianity. Before then, ancient Christians were actually given the name Helionostics, okay? Because if you read in Hebrew, okay, that was one thing. But if you want to be sophisticated, you read in Greek, okay? And the Greek word for Helionostic, Helios is sun, and gnosis is to know. They were sun worshippers. In fact, Julian the Apostate, who was Constantine's nephew, who wrote a bunch of works which are still available to read today, okay, they've survived. He tried to bring everyone back to sun worship, okay, because that's what it was. That's what this whole thing is.
Well, so
the further we go,
it is literal too. I mean, it is quite literal, but there is a lot of different encodings. I know there's numerology in here. There's also parables to help you be a better person. It's not just limited to one thing. It's the most magical book there is. I mean, it's the bestseller for a reason, because it fits whatever you want it to be. It fits it exactly as you want it to be because of as above, so below. There's not just one scale. It's not just down here and just up there. There's so many different variables in between. Like my cat is me, but she's also my daughter, and she's also part of my girlfriend. And it's always as above, so below. It's just not always a 1-to-1 scale. It changes all the time when there's so much of it that I've seen all these different things that they're quite literal. The whole book of Revelation I've experienced literally. I've seen it all, so it is quite literal. But we as humans, our third eyes aren't unlocked, and we can't imagine the literal things that used to be on Earth, the literal dragons that used to be down here, and different beings. Like this was all very literal. But it also, like you're saying, because history's been lied to us, and now we think dinosaurs were a thing when they were just part of what was here with the humans. Because of that, you can make the easy connection from the words in here to the astrology, because it does work that way as well, as you're showing tonight so brilliantly. So it is so many different things all wrapped up into one, but obviously you're showing how it is exactly lining up with the astrology exactly as it is.
okay, I can respect that. So if you're looking at this, this is what Solomon's temple looks like. Okay, this is an overhead view of Solomon's temple. Do you see anything interesting by it?
Yeah, well, his name Solomon is sun or moon, in Spanish. That's what his name is. Being Solomon. And yeah, you got the Holy of Holies is the pineal gland that's in the head. You got the porch is the throat, and then the holy place is the head, and then the Holy of Holies is the pineal gland that's in the direct center. This is how all of Egypt's set up as well.
I've never heard that before, but let me give you a different one. Remember, this is an overhead view.
Okay.
Solomon is a combination of three words for the sun: Sol, which means sun in Latin; Om, which is the sun in Buddhist; and On, which was the city of light, Heliopolis in Greece. It was the city of light. That's why when you go into a room to be enlightened, you turn the light on. You turn it on. That's where it was called. This was created using sex magic, okay? Yakim and Boaz represent the testicle. The porch is the base. The holy is the shaft. The Holy of Holies is the head. If you look at this under a new view right now, it's a penis entering a vagina. The store chambers are the uterus. And these openings for it right here, this is where the eggs come in. This is just fertility.
Oh, that's funny. I've never heard of that before, but it does work that way as well. But yeah, the way that I awoke was watching Magical Egypt with I can't even remember his name. He just died probably like 2 years ago. But Dr. Robert Schock and I forget the other guy's name, but Magical Egypt. It's all about the Holy of Holies, and this is all of Egypt is set up. All their different structures are all set up this way because it represents the body, but it does match up for what you're saying. That's funny.
So this is the Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm readings, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums, all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and love and fear that we owe to God alone. So there's obviously astrology in the Bible. Why would the Catholic Church tell you there's not, or that it's evil?
Right. Well, I think because the fallen taught it at a time, it wasn't supposed to be known to humanity. We were supposed to figure everything out for ourselves, and because it was told to us, we were supposed to figure these things out for ourselves. But now it's a different day and age. We we have the
Well, you know,
information age.
this catechism is recent. You know that, right?
What's the catechism? Oh, yeah, I'm saying that they're definitely. I'm not into any religions. Yeah, they definitely control everybody. I'm not into anything that the Catholic Church does, really.
So I'm almost done. I just have a couple more things. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix is the story of Christ the Sun, a flaming form of life that dies and rises from his ashes. Jesus was the sun who died for 3 days and came back to life. That's why the Phoenix is called the Suns. Now, what about the women's team?
The
Phoenix
Mercury, right?
Mercury.
Yeah.
Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo, the only woman's sign. So how else are things encoded into everyday life and entertainment? 1990s movie Face Off starring Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. Well, what are their characters' names? Nicolas Cage's character is Castor Troy and his brother is Pollux Troy. That's literally Gemini. Travolta is Sean Archer. Archer is the man with the bow and the arrow. Okay, that's Sagittarius. Those are opposing signs. Okay?
That's really
1990s
good.
song. Remember this song? Cranberry
Which one?
Zombie. Here, Dolores
Yep.
O'Riordan painted gold like the sun, and her head dressing represents the rays of the sun, much like Jesus in the crown of thorns. But is that it? Look at this. Here we see the golden sun on the cross. And look, the hunters with the bow and arrow, where the sun is killed in Sagittarius. Okay, so this is encoded into music, it's encoded into life, sports. There's a hidden astrology going on throughout all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Encoded or
Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely
is it
encoded.
encoded or copied?
There's so much encoded into all of this stuff. Are you done with the presentation?
I can, but my mouse isn't working. Hold on.
Okay. Yes, this was amazing. I mean,
Yeah, this was very interesting. I'm gonna have to watch it again. Watch the playback too.
So my email is into the rabbit hole series at gmail.com. If you want to get signed copies of my book series, I go deeper into this. I go into conspiracies, fringe medicine, fringe science, hidden things that you don't even know about, as well as more astrology in the Bible. On Amazon, it's Into the Rabbit Hole, Beneath the Veil. This is book 1. I would just suggest everyone just pick up the first one. It's a 6-book series. Just pick up the first one. It's only like $17. Pick it up, read it. If you like what it is, reach out to me, and I'll send you some of my best of videos.
Nice.
oh, that's
All right.
amazing. Yeah,
You can-
this is really informative. What were you
And
saying?
I barely went into anything. I said I barely went into anything.
Yeah. I know you've been
Interesting.
working on the Book of Enoch too, as well, right?
I have. We can do that another time. I don't really have time to do it now. I got to hop off and go on another one.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I mean, you kicked ass. Anybody listening, go check out all of Micah's stuff, and I'll have the links in the description. Micah, I want to thank you for coming on and enlightening us with all this stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. I will talk to you later.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. So, well, let's just finish the show like this.
Okay.
So, what did you think? What's your immediate thoughts?
That was a lot. But since I'm very into astrology in a different kind of way, that kind of put a lot of things together, actually. So it's very interesting. I do want to re-listen because, when you're writing
is a
notes,
lot.
you're not listening. So when I was writing down something, I missed
Right.
something. So,
It is very full.
and I would
his
love to
presentation.
re-listen to it before before the interview next week or over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be interesting little back and forth.
It was a lot. His presentation was a very uh, full type of presentation. It
No, but
covered all
that's
the bases.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's what I mean. It covered
It's very
everything.
good.
He didn't leave anything out. He picked the whole
I
book
like
of
how
Matthew.
detailed it was. I like how
Right.
he explained it.
Yeah, he did a really good job, and
Yeah.
he squeezed it in right in an hour there. But again,
Perfect.
it isn't just astrology, and I think I got him to agree to that towards the end there. But it is amazing in how you could put this all together this way, how you could see, because it's very difficult for people these days to see that their brain doesn't split off and work in parable as easy as it should because the pineal gland's closed. So when people talk to me, I always see it in at least two different ways, two different dimensions. So I respect how
Yeah,
someone could do
yeah.
it as thoroughly as, because he's hearing the sun is in, is in Sagittarius, and automatically he's seeing like an archer behind the sun, or this type of thing.
Right.
So it's amazing how his brain operates in that manner.
I've been saying like I want to put a sky map over the world map and air quotes. I think I just had it wrong. I don't think it was the world map I needed. I think it was just creation, like in general. And then it would make sense. As above, so below.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I got a lot of stuff to look up. I have, some starred stuff and stuff I want to go over one more time and digest.
Yeah, it was good, and I'm glad that we got to do it.
I like that April showers brings May flowers, translated as water to wine. That was interesting. That
Yeah.
was very interesting.
Oh, hey, Charlotte, you're making an appearance. Charlotte's been running out lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we saw her. We were coming home the other night, and she was out front. We saw her crossing the street, and she got caught in the headlights, and she's like, "Oh shit."
She's in trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I guess that's it for tonight.
Yeah, that'll do it. Everybody have a great night, and we will talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.